Everyone wants to get rich fast. But let me tell you, fast wealth fades, slow wealth stays. You can win the lottery and still lose it all. But if you build it slow, you build it strong. The rich don't rush, they repeat. The secret isn't speed, it's structure, patience, and the power of compounding. The reason most people never keep their wealth is simple. They earn it faster than they grow into it. Money grows best in mature hands. If you get rich before you get wise, your wealth will vanish just as quickly as it came. Don't chase the fortune, build the foundation. Because wealth isn't something you get, it's something you become. Before you ever see a dollar multiply, you must first see your philosophy mature. You see, money doesn't change you, it simply magnifies who you already are. That's why the first step to getting rich slowly and staying rich forever is to build a philosophy before you build wealth. Most people spend their lives working harder on their job than on themselves. But the wealthy understand that your philosophy, your view of life, work, time, and value determines your financial destiny. If your philosophy is wrong, every strategy you use will eventually collapse. If your philosophy is right, even average strategies can make you extraordinary. I remember years ago when I was broke, not just financially, but mentally. I was working hard, showing up every day, but nothing seemed to move. My wallet was empty, but worse, so was my thinking. Then one evening, my mentor said to me, "You don't have a money problem, you have a philosophy problem." That hit me like a thunderbolt. He said, "You earn what you believe you're worth, and you keep what your philosophy allows you to keep." That day I realized if I wanted my income to grow, I first had to grow me. I had to study success, understand how the world rewards value, and stop blaming circumstances for outcomes that came from my own habits. Wealth starts as an idea long before it becomes an account balance. The poor often think, if I just had more money, I'd solve my problems. But the truth is, if you gave most people more money, they'd only multiply their problems because they never change their thinking. They treat money emotionally, not intelligently. They buy comfort instead of freedom. They consume before they create. The wealthy, on the other hand, see money as a tool, not a trophy. They ask better questions. How can I make this dollar work for me? How can I add value that others will pay for? How can I grow so my results grow too? When I began reading, and I mean really reading, everything changed. I started journaling my thoughts about money. I asked myself, where did these beliefs come from? Who taught me this? Is it serving me or limiting me? I replaced the old thinking, the kind that said money is hard to earn or rich people are greedy, with a new understanding that money simply responds to value and discipline. That's when I began surrounding myself with people who thought differently, people who believed in creation, not competition, people who built wealth quietly through habits and patience, not luck and noise. So, if you want to build wealth that lasts, start by rebuilding the philosophy that guides you. Read one chapter every day from a good book, something that stretches your thinking. Write down your new beliefs about growth, stewardship, and purpose. Because you don't build wealth with your hands, you build it with your mind. Once your philosophy changes, everything else follows. Your habits, your income, and eventually, your destiny. The foundation of lasting wealth isn't found in what you earn, but in what you believe. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a decade. The secret of the wealthy is that they understand the power of consistency over intensity. You see, anyone can get excited for a moment, attend a seminar, read a book, make a resolution, and for a few days, they're on fire. But wealth doesn't respond to excitement, it responds to discipline. It's not what you do occasionally that shapes your future. It's what you do consistently. Small, repeated actions, done quietly, done daily, build the kind of life others call lucky. I remember a young man once telling me, "I'm ready to change my life. I'm going to save half my income starting this month." I said, "That's wonderful, but will you still be saving 6 months from now?" He smiled confidently and said, "Of course." 6 months later, I asked how his plan was going. He looked down and said, "Well, I stopped after the second month. It was too hard." I told him, "That's why most people stay average. They're intense for a season, but not consistent for a lifetime." Wealth is built slowly because growth is built daily. The wealthy don't sprint, they walk steadily, but they never stop walking. They create systems that make progress inevitable. They automate savings so that their emotions don't interfere. They invest monthly, whether the market is high or low. They schedule learning the same way others schedule entertainment. They know that compound effort builds compound results. And just like compound interest, the earlier you start, the greater your return. When I was broke, I learned the power of small, consistent habits. I started saving just $10 a week. That's all I could manage, but I didn't miss a single week. I treated that $10 as sacred. And after a few months, something remarkable happened. Not in my bank account, but in my character. I became the kind of person who kept promises to himself. That's where the real wealth began. It wasn't about the amount, it was about the attitude. Too many people chase intensity. They want to go all in for a month and then collapse. They want fast results, quick money, instant freedom. But the wealthy understand patience. They know that time is the ally of discipline and the enemy of impulse. They don't measure success by days, they measure it by decades. The question isn't, can you do it for a week? It's, can you do it for a lifetime? If you save, read, invest, and reflect a little every day, the results will surprise you. Because consistency doesn't just build wealth, it builds identity. It turns ordinary habits into extraordinary outcomes. So don't try to change your life overnight. Just make one small promise to yourself and keep it. Then make another and another. Because if you stay consistent long enough, success has no choice but to meet you along the way. Wealth doesn't belong to the fastest. It belongs to the most faithful. Hard work is noble, but by itself, it's not enough. You can dig ditches all your life and still end up broke, tired, and frustrated. The truth is, hard work creates opportunity, but smart work creates freedom. You've got to learn to combine effort with wisdom, action with strategy. If you're only working hard without thinking about leverage, you're building someone else's dream instead of your own. When I was young, I used to admire the man who worked the longest hours, the one who stayed late, came early, and never rested. But then I met a man who worked half the hours and earned 10 times the income. I asked him how. He smiled and said, "Because I stopped working for money and started making money work for me." That moment changed how I viewed effort. It's not the hours that matter. It's what those hours produce when you're not there. You see, there's a big difference between activity and productivity. Most people stay busy their whole lives, but busy doesn't always mean effective. They confuse motion with progress. They spend their time reacting, not creating. The wealthy, on the other hand, look at every task and ask, is this multiplying my time or consuming it? That question alone can change your destiny. If what you're doing today won't matter 5 years from now, it's probably not wise work. The wealthy invest their energy into building systems, businesses, assets, and teams that continue producing long after they stop working. They hire people smarter than themselves, automate what they can, and delegate what doesn't require their unique gift. They understand that the purpose of hard work is to eventually build leverage. There's nothing wrong with hard work. In fact, it's the foundation. But if you stay only at that level, you'll exhaust yourself. You've got to graduate from labor to leadership, from income to investment, from effort to efficiency. It's the evolution from employee thinking to owner thinking. A wise person doesn't just trade time for money. They trade money, skill, and creativity for freedom. Let me tell you something. The same 24 hours belong to everyone, but how you use them determines everything. One man spends 10 hours a day earning a living. Another spends 2 hours a day building a system that will earn for him for decades. The difference isn't luck, it's leverage. So, ask yourself, where in your life are you working hard but not working wise? What tasks can you delegate? What systems can you build? What knowledge can you learn that will multiply your impact? Remember, a few hours spent thinking can save you years of sweating. Don't just work harder, work smarter. Don't just move, multiply. The goal is not to be the busiest person in the room. It's to be the most effective. Because the day you learn to turn effort into leverage is the day you stop chasing success and start attracting it. One of the greatest illusions in the world is that wealth comes from how much you make. It doesn't. It comes from how much you keep, grow, and manage. You can earn $1 million a year and still end up broke if you haven't learned discipline. But you can also earn an average income and become financially free if you learn the art of control. Wealth isn't a matter of income, it's a matter of intelligence, financial intelligence. When I was young and broke, I used to think, if I just made more money, all my problems would be solved. Then I met a wealthy man who told me something I never forgot. If you can't handle $1,000 wisely, you won't handle $10,000 any better. He was right. The problem isn't usually the amount, it's the behavior. People try to fix financial problems by earning more, when in reality, they should first fix how they think and manage what they already have. You see, money is like a mirror. It reflects who you are. If you're disciplined, your money will show growth. If you're careless, your money will show loss. The habit of managing well begins long before abundance arrives. That's why I tell people, live below your means while expanding your means. Don't shrink your dreams to fit your income. Grow your income to fit your dreams. But until that growth happens, practice control. That's the foundation of freedom. There's a simple rule I call the 70-20-10 principle. Live on 70% of your income. That's your lifestyle, your house, your food, your car, your fun. Take 20% and invest it. That's your wealth building fund, the money that works while you sleep. And take 10% and give it away to charity, to people in need, to causes you believe in. That's your seed money. And I promise, what you give multiplies back in ways you can't imagine. Most people do the opposite. They live on 110%, spend what they don't have, and wonder why they're stressed. They buy to impress rather than invest. But remember this, every dollar you spend is either a seed or a story. The question is, do you want stories to tell or trees that grow? Start reviewing every major expense and ask yourself, does this serve my goals or just my ego? You don't need to cut out joy, just cut out waste. Learn the difference between luxury and liability. A luxury adds comfort. A liability steals peace. Spend deliberately, not emotionally. And when your income rises, because it will if you're consistent, don't raise your lifestyle first, Raise your investments. Every extra dollar should be a worker, not a decoration. Let your money multiply before you magnify your comfort. So remember, control first, expansion second. The one who learns to spend less today grows more tomorrow. Because wealth isn't built in what you buy, it's built in what you build. And the secret to staying rich forever is learning that financial control isn't restriction, it's liberation. Time, that invisible currency that everyone is given equally, yet so few learn to invest wisely. You can lose money and make it back, but once you lose time, it's gone forever. Most people underestimate the value of a single hour, yet overestimate what they can do in a year. They rush for results, spend years reacting instead of planning, and wonder why wealth feels so far away. The truth is, time is not something you spend, it's something you multiply. It's the foundation on which every fortune stands. Lose it, and you lose the compounding effect that makes wealth effortless later. When I was young and struggling, I met a man who told me something that changed my life. He said, "Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were earlier." At first, I didn't quite understand. But what he meant was, start now. Don't wait until the perfect time to save, learn, or invest. There will never be a perfect time. Wealth is built not by those who time the market, but by those who give the market time. The earlier you start, the less pressure you'll have later. Compounding rewards, patience, not perfection. Think of time as your greatest employee, the one that works day and night, even while you rest. Every dollar invested today has the potential to grow quietly in the background, compounding into a forest of wealth years later. But every delay, every "I'll start next month," is a tree that never gets planted. That's the silent tragedy of procrastination. Now, here's what most people do wrong. They trade all of their time for money. They sell hours instead of building assets. And the problem with that is, when you stop working, your income stops too. The wealthy think differently. They learn how to trade time for equity, not just for wages. They build systems, businesses, investments, things that keep working when they don't. That's how you create freedom. Not by working harder, but by letting time and systems work for you. Every week, set aside sacred hours, time not for entertainment, but for elevation. Use 1 hour a day to learn something that compounds, a skill, a principle, a market insight. Read books that teach you how money moves. Block out creative time, the kind that leads to growth, ideas, or side ventures. Because if your calendar doesn't include time for creation, it will be consumed by reaction. Start small, start today. Even if it's a few hundred rupees or dollars, invest it. Not because it's a lot, but because it's a seed. You're training your mind to think like a builder, not a spender. Remember this truth. Time can either be your greatest ally or your silent enemy. It rewards the disciplined and punishes the delayed. If you respect time early, it will serve you richly later. Because wealth isn't built in the moment, it's built by what you do with the moment you've been given. Loss is not the enemy. In fact, loss is one of the greatest teachers life will ever give you, if you're humble enough to listen. Most people fear failure so much that they never give themselves the chance to grow. They hide from mistakes, deny them, or worse, repeat them. But the wealthy, the wise, they treat failure like tuition, an entry fee to the school of mastery. Because failure isn't final, it's feedback. It's life whispering, not this way, adjust your course. I remember in my early years, I made some bad business decisions. I trusted too quickly, spent too loosely, and expected results too soon. And every time I lost, it felt like a punch to the gut. But as I sat alone, reflecting on what went wrong, I realized something profound. The loss wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to teach me. It was showing me where I lacked structure, patience, or wisdom. Once I stopped blaming and started asking questions, everything began to change. You see, the poor mindset sees loss as punishment. The wealthy mindset sees loss as preparation. Every setback is an unpaid mentor, and every mistake holds a message about who you need to become next. The difference lies in response, not reaction. Instead of saying, "Why me?" learn to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That one question transforms pain into progress. It turns emotion into education. One of the habits I encourage everyone to build is keeping a lessons journal. After every major financial decision, win or lose, write down what you learned. Maybe you trusted the wrong person, or you got greedy, or you didn't read the fine print. These notes become your private library of wisdom, a record of how you've grown. And over time, you'll see patterns. You'll notice how the same lessons show up in new disguises until you master them. The wealthy don't fear mistakes. They fear repeating them. They don't cry over lost money. They analyze why it left. They don't avoid risk. They prepare better next time. This is what I call turning setbacks into system upgrades. Every time something fails, you tighten a process, adjust a plan, or strengthen a mindset. You don't collapse, you calibrate. And that's the essence of emotional maturity with money. You can't afford to be ruled by frustration or pride. Because money is emotional, it triggers fear, greed, and ego. But when you detach emotion and replace it with reflection, you stop losing the same way twice. So the next time life hits you with a financial storm, don't curse the rain. Step back, take notes, and upgrade your umbrella. Because every loss, properly understood, becomes an asset, not a liability. It refines you, redefines you, and reminds you that wisdom has a price, but its returns are infinite. Wealth is one of life's greatest responsibilities. It's not just a trophy for hard work, it's a test of who you've become. Most people believe that money changes you, but the truth is, money reveals you. It amplifies your character, your habits, your mindset. If you're generous when you're poor, you'll be abundant when you're rich. But if you're careless with a little, you'll be reckless with a lot. Wealth doesn't make you better, it simply makes you more of who you already are. I've often said that money is a mirror. When you look into it, it doesn't lie. It reflects your philosophy about value, discipline, and purpose. And that's why wealth isn't the finish line. It's the starting point of stewardship. Once you begin to earn more, you must also learn more about responsibility, about balance, about contribution, because if you can't manage $1,000, you'll never manage $100,000. And if you can't handle $100,000 wisely, $1 million will simply magnify your mistakes. You see, poverty tests your endurance. Wealth tests your wisdom. Poverty asks, can you survive? Wealth asks, can you serve? The wealthy understand that their fortune isn't for flaunting, it's for forwarding, for building something bigger than themselves. They use their prosperity to create opportunity, to lift others, to make a difference. Because at the end of the day, true wealth isn't measured by how much you accumulate, but by how much you contribute. I once knew a man who told me, when I get rich, I'll start giving. And I told him, no, you won't. If you won't give a dime out of $1, you'll never give 1,000,000 out of 10. The act of giving isn't about the amount, it's about the attitude. Generosity is a habit long before it becomes a capacity. The wealthy give not because they have excess, but because they understand the flow of value. What you send out comes back multiplied, not always in money, but in meaning, relationships, and peace of mind. That's why you need a giving plan as much as an investment plan. Decide where your money will serve. Maybe it's education, community, or family. Maybe it's teaching the next generation what you've learned about money. Because the greatest wealth transfer you can make isn't financial, it's philosophical. The values you pass down are more powerful than the valuables you leave behind. And when you reach that level of maturity, when your money starts working for causes that matter, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing success and start becoming it. You begin to live with purpose, not pressure. Because wealth, when rightly handled, brings peace, not pride. It gives you the power to choose and the wisdom to choose well. So, remember this. Wealth is not a crown, it's a calling. It's not about what you possess, but about what you protect and pass on. And when your riches start to serve something greater than yourself, you don't just get rich, you stay rich in every sense that truly matters. Wealth doesn't come to you by chance, it comes to you by change. It follows the person you become. That's one of life's greatest truths. Most people chase money as if it were hiding in some secret place. But money isn't hiding, it's simply looking for a home. And it settles with those who are ready to handle it. That's why I often say, if you want more, you must become more. Because wealth isn't something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you are becoming. When I was young, I worked hard, harder than most. I put in long hours, pushed through exhaustion, and thought effort alone would lead me to abundance. But effort without growth is like running on a treadmill. A lot of motion, no progress. One day, my mentor told me something that changed everything. He said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills." That one line opened my eyes. I realized that money was simply a reflection of the value I provided. And value comes from growth, personal growth. You see, the marketplace doesn't pay you for time, it pays you for value. The more valuable you become, the more the world rewards you. So instead of saying, "I need more income," start saying, "I need more wisdom, more skill, more discipline." Because wealth doesn't flow to the needy, it flows to the capable. That's why personal development must become your top investment. Read daily, not just to learn, but to evolve. Study communication, because wealth loves clarity. Develop leadership, because wealth loves direction. And master your emotions, because wealth fears instability. Every breakthrough you desire in your finances starts with a breakthrough in your thinking. You can't attract prosperity with a poverty mindset. You can't manage abundance with a careless attitude. You have to train yourself to think long-term, act with precision, and stay grounded when opportunities appear. Wealth doesn't trust the impulsive, but it rewards the prepared. Ask yourself every day, am I becoming the kind of person wealth would trust? Because money doesn't just come, it's invited. It arrives when it feels safe, when it knows you'll use it wisely. Think of it like a guest. It visits those who are ready to host it well. If you're reckless, it leaves. If you're disciplined, it stays. If you're generous and strategic, it multiplies. So work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Your job will make you a living. Your personal growth will make you a fortune. Become the kind of person who can create, sustain, and grow wealth, not just receive it. And when you do, money will stop running from you and start running to you, because it always finds its reflection in the person who has become truly worthy of it. Most people live their entire lives reacting to pressure, deadlines, bills, obligations, emergencies, always chasing, always running. But the wealthy, they build systems that work so they don't have to. You see, the goal isn't to live a life of constant hustle. It's to create a life of controlled momentum. Because wealth isn't built by stress, it's built by structure. When I was younger, I used to believe that working harder was the only path to success. I thought if I just put in more hours, I'd eventually earn my freedom. But the truth is, without systems, more work only creates more dependency. I learned this when I met people who made far more money than I did, but seemed to work far less. I couldn't understand it at first, until I realized they weren't working harder than me. They had systems working for them. Their money had a plan, their time had structure, and their business had rhythm. They had mastered what I call the invisible engine of wealth. Here's the principle. What you don't systemize, you will have to supervise. And if you have to supervise everything, you'll never be free. That's why the wealthy design systems that keep producing value without their constant presence. Think about your income right now. If you stopped working for 30 days, how much of it would continue to flow? That answer tells you whether you own a system or just a job. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It starts small. Automate your savings and investments so your future grows even while you sleep. Use technology to track expenses. Schedule payments. And analyze where your money flows. Build routines in your business that others can follow without you micromanaging. The more predictable your systems, the more freedom you gain. When I started building my own enterprises, I learned quickly that effort could only take me so far. So, I began to replace my constant hustle with repeatable processes. I documented everything. How I handled clients, how I managed finances, how I made decisions. Over time, those processes turned into blueprints others could follow. And that's when my stress started to fade, and my income began to grow even when I wasn't around. That's leverage. And leverage is the quiet secret behind lasting wealth. We live in a time when technology can do what used to take hours, even days. So, use it wisely. Automate your growth. Simplify your systems. Review them often. Not to see how hard you're working, but how efficiently things are running. Because the goal of wealth isn't to become busier, it's to become freer. Remember, your wealth should serve your life, not the other way around. The more systems you build, the less stress you'll carry, and one day, you'll wake up and realize that the real luxury isn't in possessions or paychecks. It's in peace, predictability, and time that's finally your own. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned about wealth was this. Time is the most loyal business partner you'll ever have. It never demands a raise, it never complains, and it never takes a day off. It simply multiplies what you give it. That's the magic of compound interest. The silent partner of every truly wealthy person. Albert Einstein once called it the eighth wonder of the world, and he was right. Because once you understand how it works, you'll stop chasing money and start letting time do the heavy lifting. Most people lose at the game of wealth, not because they're lazy, but because they're impatient. They want quick profits, instant results, overnight miracles. But wealth doesn't come to those who sprint. It comes to those who persist. Compounding rewards consistency, not intensity. It's a law of nature. Steady growth always outlasts fast gain. Every time you invest and let that investment grow, you're planting a seed that quietly becomes a tree. You don't see much at first, maybe a few sprouts, but give it time, and one day that tree will shade your entire future. I remember a time when I could barely save $20 a week. It didn't seem like much, but I started anyway. Week after week, month after month, I kept adding, watching small numbers grow into something meaningful. And one day, I realized that my money had started to work harder than I ever could. That's when you know you've partnered with time. It doesn't need motivation, it just needs patience. Let me tell you something important. It's not the size of your contribution that matters, it's the consistency. A small amount invested regularly will always outperform a large amount invested sporadically, because compounding doesn't reward what you start. It rewards what you keep doing. The wealthy understand this. They automate their investments so emotion doesn't interfere. They don't look for excitement in the market. They look for endurance in the method. They let time and discipline do what impatience never will. And here's another secret. Never interrupt compounding. When you withdraw early, you're not just taking your money out, you're taking your future out. Compounding works best when it's left alone. The interest earns interest. The profits produce more profits. And slowly, quietly, the numbers begin to take on a life of their own. You don't notice much at first, but then, one day, it starts to feel almost unfair, like money is multiplying by magic. But it's not magic. It's math. It's patience dressed as progress. So, start early, start small, but most importantly, start now. Let compounding become your silent business partner, your financial engine, your invisible advantage. Give your money time to breathe, grow, and mature. Because if you treat time with respect, it will repay you with wealth that not only lasts, but grows long after you stop working for it. Remember, the rich don't wait for time, they work with it. There's a great irony in the world of wealth. Most people try to look rich before they become rich, and that's why they stay broke. The truly wealthy do the opposite. They live below their means, but they invest above them. They save like they're still struggling and invest like they've already won. Because the moment you start living for appearance, you stop living for abundance. I learned early on that frugality doesn't mean deprivation, it means direction. It's the discipline of saying, I could have that, but I choose to wait until my money earns it for me. You see, poor people buy things to look rich. The middle class saves money to feel secure. But the rich, they invest money to create freedom. It's a completely different mindset. They know that every dollar they don't spend today becomes an employee tomorrow. And those employees, if managed well, will one day buy all the luxuries they desire, but with returns, not paychecks. That's the quiet confidence of wealth. You don't need to prove it when you know you're building it. I remember a young man who once asked me, if I start earning more, should I reward myself with a better car? I said, only if your investments are already earning more than your car payment. That's the balance. You don't deny yourself pleasure forever. You just delay it until it doesn't cost your progress. That's what separates the wealthy from the worn out. They understand that lifestyle is a result of wealth, not a reason for it. Here's what the smart ones do. When their income grows, their expenses don't. They keep their lifestyle steady and direct the difference, the surplus, into investments. Stocks, real estate, businesses, intellectual property, anything that multiplies. They treat their extra income not as permission to spend, but as fuel to expand. They say no to unnecessary upgrades so they can say yes to opportunity. Now, this requires humility. It takes maturity to keep driving the same car when your neighbors are upgrading. It takes strength to keep wearing the same watch while your peers chase new models. But remember, you're not in competition with appearances. You're in partnership with your future. The rich don't ask, can I afford it? They ask, will this help me grow? If the answer is no, they move on without hesitation. The greatest investors in the world, Buffett, Munger, Gates, all share one trait: restraint. They understand that the secret to wealth is not just earning more, but keeping more, to invest better. When you save like you're poor and invest like you're rich, you build a foundation that no economy can shake. So, here's the rule: be aggressive in creation, conservative in consumption. Earn boldly, invest bravely, and spend wisely. Because wealth isn't built by what you show, it's built by what you grow. And the man who saves with humility today will live with dignity tomorrow. Most people spend their entire lives studying how to earn money, but very few ever study their relationship with it. And that's the real difference. Wealth isn't just built by skills, it's built by psychology, because you can give two people the same opportunity. One will multiply it, the other will lose it. Why? Not because of the opportunity itself, but because of how each one thinks about it. You don't just earn money, you attract it by who you become, by how you think, and by how you handle the emotions that come with it. You see, money is deeply emotional. It's tied to our fears, our hopes, our self-worth. Some people chase it out of fear of being broke, and that fear drives them to bad decisions. Others attract it because they see money as a tool, a servant, not a master. If your emotions control your money, you'll always be broke, no matter your income. But if you learn to control your emotions, you'll stay rich, even in lean times. The wealthy understand this truth. Emotional discipline is financial discipline. When I was younger, I noticed that the difference between rich and poor wasn't intelligence, it was emotional literacy. Poor people panic when the market drops. Rich people prepare. The poor see risk as danger, the rich see it as data. The poor seek comfort, the rich seek challenge. That's all psychology. If you don't master your mindset, your money will magnify your weakness. But if you do, it will multiply your wisdom. Now, becoming a student of wealth, psychology means learning how you respond to gain and loss. Do you get greedy when things go well? Do you panic when they don't? Both responses can destroy fortune. Wealth requires emotional neutrality, the ability to stay steady while others sway, and that comes from awareness. Start observing your financial emotions like a scientist. When you lose money, instead of reacting, reflect. Ask, what belief led me here? Every loss has a lesson. Every gain tests your gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, that's one of the most underrated financial tools in existence. Gratitude keeps you grounded when success arrives and focused when it doesn't. It tells the mind, I already have enough. And that sense of sufficiency creates clarity. And clarity leads to better decisions. Gratitude turns wealth from something you chase into something you channel. It changes your frequency from desperation to direction. So, study behavioral finance. Read about how the mind perceives value, risk, and reward. Understand that the markets may rise and fall, but your inner world must remain still. The goal isn't just to make more, it's to think better. Because you can't out-earn a poor mindset, and you can't out-invest emotional chaos. The truth is, wealth begins where awareness begins. Master your mind, and money will follow. Be the kind of person who doesn't just count wealth, but understands it. Because the person who studies the psychology of money doesn't just get rich. They stay wise, grounded, and free. There's a strange irony about money. Most people say they want to be free, yet when they finally start earning, they chain themselves tighter than ever. They buy bigger houses, fancier cars, and heavier responsibilities. They trade peace for pressure, all in the name of progress. But here's the truth. The purpose of wealth is freedom, not slavery to possessions or appearances. Money was meant to serve you, not master you. And the tragedy is, too many people become servants to what was supposed to serve them. When I first started to earn well, I made the same mistake. I thought success meant owning more suits, more things, more symbols. Until one day, I realized I was working harder to maintain the image than to build the substance. I wasn't freer, I was busier. And that's when I made a decision that changed everything. To make money my servant, not my master. The moment you shift that relationship, you shift your life. You see, money is a tool. A powerful one, yes, but a tool nonetheless. And like any tool, if you don't learn to use it, it will use you. Most people never stop to do that. They chase more without direction. But when you set your own definition of enough, you step off the treadmill of endless wanting. You stop running someone else's race. Enough doesn't mean lack, it means peace. It's the point where you no longer work to impress, but to express. As your wealth grows, your lifestyle should simplify, not complicate. A cluttered life drains clarity. The rich who stay rich are not the ones who own the most, but those who need the least. They've learned the art of letting go, of replacing maintenance with meaning. You don't have to prove your success to anyone. The quietest wealth is often the most powerful. Simplify your surroundings, and you'll amplify your peace. And then comes one of the most liberating lessons. Use money to buy time, not toys. Anyone can buy luxury, but only the wise buy leverage. When you use money to free up hours for creativity, learning, or family, you've turned it into true wealth. Every dollar you spend should give you something far more valuable than comfort. It should give you control. So ask yourself, who's serving whom? Are you serving money, or is money serving you? If your schedule, your stress, and your sleep depend on your next paycheck, then the balance has shifted. But when your systems, savings, and strategy give you options, you've won. The ultimate goal isn't to die with millions. It's to live with mastery. To wake up knowing that your money works for you while you live for what truly matters. Because in the end, real wealth isn't in the number of things you own, it's in the number of things that no longer own you. And so, my friends, wealth isn't built in the bank, it's built in the mind, in the habits, and in the daily disciplines that compound quietly over time. Don't chase the illusion of quick riches, build the character that sustains real wealth. Let your money serve your values, not your vanity. Start where you are, with what you have. Plant the first seed today. Save a little. Learn a lot. And let time become your greatest ally. Because the greatest return is not what you earn, it's who you become in the process. Begin your journey now.